I haven't yet been able to crystallise where the beginnings of the third wave of feminism came from, like the actual roots of it, before GamerGate and before all the vloggers that followed the Green Brothers on YouTube started spouting this stuff. And I don't think it's just like what Dr. Jordan Peterson says with postmodernism, even though that's obviously a load of bullcrap and you can see strains of feminism through it. It's like pseudoscience or something. Like people pretending. I mean, it's an arts movement, so obviously it's not meant to be a science. But the stuff they're teaching there is very strange. But I don't think it's the root of the actual third wave feminism. I think it does have writers behind it. Writers that have been read by the children of, I say children, teenagers of 2009 who took up vlogging. And something else. So firstly, I have a problem, don't know if I'm going to find a way to solidify this into a video at some point, but I have a problem with feminists demonising like the concept of love as it used to exist. And that's not to say that I'm 100% for traditionalism, because I'm not so keen on the whole having kids and getting married and that kind of thing. And also, I'd like to ask Jordan Peterson if he like how does the traditional household fit into like how gay people should live or how bi people should live? Not that I'm gay, I'm more bi. But I mean, when he talks about this stuff, when Jordan Peterson talks about all these traditional things, and to a lesser extent Sargon and Lauren Southern, I guess to a greater extent, it's invariably about how you're trying to keep a stable household with two parents, heterosexual male and female parents, and a kid, and how the kid needs their parents and they need a female mother guidance and a male father guidance. And I don't quite know how that fits into gay relationships, because they haven't really talked about what a traditionalist gay family would look like, if you know what I mean. Maybe they'd be totally against it because it doesn't fit biological, like, it doesn't fit traditionalism of the past. Like, they're now like glamorizing 1950s and 1960s housewives and things. And I think that's more to do with glamorizing the art of the era. In 1950s and 60s, you've got films, black and white films, and they're wearing certain clothes and fashions, and they've got their hair in certain fashions, and they're living a certain way, which is far from how we live now, because we have the internet and everything seems different with technology and what people have in their homes. You know, in those days, the machine you'd want for your house is a washing machine or an iron or a toaster, and they were the new thing. These days it's like a better microphone. And it's all different. But yeah, so Jordan Peterson, Lauren Southern, is there a traditionalist gay household? For those, because I often wonder when they're talking about these things how gay and lesbian couples feel watching one of Jordan Peterson's lectures or something. It must be odd for them to go and see that. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. I think a Twittery friend of mine, Eva, might be doing a video on traditionalism at some point, so she might be able to focus on that a bit more, but what I'm trying to focus on. So I think there were writers, like teeny writers, before 2009 that were writing feminism books and things that appealed to young adults. I hate that term, YA, young adults. Novels that's cropped up. Also, side note on gay couples, because I'm tangent hopping all over the place. You don't need to be in the LGBT movement to be a gay person. That's a movement. LGBTQ, rainbow flag, walking in the streets, pride. That's a collectivist movement. It's not you as an individual, and you don't. A gay person isn't LGBT. They don't have to be. That's just a movement that you join up that has a set of values, and they keep bolting off on stuff to it as the years go by. Like, feminism is a movement, whereas egalitarianism is actually the individual thought process of equality for all. And same with atheism plus, is it? Is it atheism plus? The movement of atheism? Like, you must join our collective to do it correctly. Like, you can't... No. Just no. All you need is a non-belief in a deity. That's an individualistic thought process. You can disbelieve in God and not go and find this strange support circle. Why do you need a support circle of people to disbelieve in God? I don't... Yeah. All these collectivist movements are daft as fuck. Anyway, so I'm getting lost tangent hopping here. Also, that rainbow flag. Like, I'm sure there's a really stylish gay person out there who knows what colour coordination is and doesn't just dress in all colours at once, you know. That rainbow flag is a cacophony of garish... I don't know, it's like where art goes to die, I think. Give me a nice colour scheme of like 3 colours, like dark green, dark blue and aqua, and I'm more likely to paint a cool painting with those colours or make a cool dress sense out of my clothing than all the colours of the rainbow at once. I just look like some sort of garish clown. I hate that, you know, obsession with bright colours. It's very childish. So by all means let your child dress like that, but I don't know. People seem classier when they... Anyway, I'm getting off topic. The feminist demonisation of love, one of the bits of that is the way they handle breakups, the way people in relationships handle breakups badly because perhaps they're not mature enough, or together they decide, like 2 people in a relationship decide, hey, this isn't working out, we don't want to be together. And this is a really tricky subject to talk about because lots of people have had genuinely bad breakups. But I think a lot of people are disingenuous about what a bad breakup is, and they've split up with their boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, on bad terms. They can't be civil about a breakup. This kind of leads to someone having a string of breakups with past girlfriends, boyfriends, which has gone badly, or to their mind has gone badly, but it's actually that both of them couldn't handle splitting apart in a civil way, couldn't handle breaking up in a non-psychotic, emotion-filled way where, you know, they split apart and they hate each other. And there are genuine breakups where there's a good reason to dislike each other when you break up because one of you's done something completely wrong and bad. But I think that needs to be specifically defined, what the rules of that are. Like, what is an actual bad breakup? Like, what is an actual... What is a reason to break up that is objectively bad? I mean, what's a reason to break up? What's a behaviour in a relationship between 2 people where one does something objectively bad? What is that behaviour that leads to a breakup needing to be filled with all this bitterness and sad emotion that makes the 2 people hate each other after? I don't think it's right to even hate anyone when you come out of a relationship, but you know, some people do. Some people are wife beaters or husband beaters. They do exist. There's domestic abuse. That's a good reason to break up. I often feel like there needs to be like love education in schools, not sex education, like love education. But that's a very slippery slope because if you have a love education, then you're teaching people how to love, and that's wrong because love is diversity of thought. So it would be good to have it for some reasons, but I just know that once you put something like love education in schools, it would be instantly abused by the people writing the syllabus, the curriculums, you know, what you teach. They will instantly use it to control people and to make children think in a certain way. And that's fucked up, and that's part of what gender studies courses are doing in a way already in our schools. That's fucked up. We don't need that because it'll be abused, but in an ideal world there'd be a love education which isn't abused, and what it would talk about is how to handle breakups, especially. People do breakups terribly these days, and they're not like civil to the other person that they're breaking up with. They're not friends with them afterwards. I mean, you don't have to be deep friends, but be civil friends or acquaintances. Like, you'd say hi to each other on the street afterwards. You'd help them out if they needed it, but you wouldn't be in love, and you'd be like casual, like slightly distant friends, because you wouldn't want to see them every day after you've been in love with them, and you wouldn't want to really know if they start dating another person and fall in love with them. You wouldn't want to know about that, just kind of. But currently, I think a lot of kids, should we call them kids, teenagers and such, are breaking up with each other and not handling it well. They're breaking up with each other for superficial reasons, and they're not able. In the old days, what do I even mean by that? In the 20th century, like when I was young and I was looking up to what adults did, and even teenagers who are slightly older than me at high school, they were able to keep relationships going for ages. And not all, hashtag not all. Not all people were able to do that. But a lot of relationships I saw were very stable, and they lasted for like 2 years quite a lot of times. People in the era of, so I'm talking about the 90s when I was in high school, but you'd see adults keeping their relationships together a lot more. You'd see a lot more of these traditional households, which I don't have a problem with. If you're a man who acts like a man in that stereotypical, I don't believe in this masculinity, femininity thing. As SJW as that might sound, I don't think you need to be macho to be a man, or feminine to be a girl, and love pink and glitter and all this, and act a certain way. So I'm kind of against traditionalism in a few ways, but I'm all for traditionalism in a few other ways, so you can't say I'm completely against it, because they have stable relationships, and they have old-style, old-fashioned relationships. And it seemed, although I was absorbing a lot of films and fiction, that 1950s, 1960s, 70s, that era, people were able to keep their relationships together a lot more, and they were able to have like these harsh arguments with each other in the relationship that would not lead to a breakup. They'd stay together even though they've had this harsh argument. They'd reconcile, they'd resolve it. There was more of a culture of forgiveness and trying to get past anger and still continue forward with the person you're with. And that's something that I think relationships are missing these days, because people break up for superficial reasons, and they have lots of ex-girlfriends and boyfriends. Because, even in gay relationships you can have fights and breakups and battles, and people these days would break up for superficial reasons, whether they're in a heterosexual relationship or a I don't know what the bisexual relationship would be. Heterosexual relationship or gay relationship, bi would cover both those bases. They break up, or they have massive fallings out that verge on breakups for tiny arguments, not even the large arguments that you used to be able to recover from, but small arguments. And when you actually look to the root cause of this argument that you've been getting stressed and emotional about, it's actually usually something really small and meaningless and shallow, like, you didn't put the forks in the right place, or why are you always in the room when I'm vacuuming, or like, when I was carrying shopping bags, you didn't carry slightly more shopping bags than me, so I'm the one doing all the work in this relationship. It's like this, like, you don't appreciate me, that kind of bullshit. People have a range of falling outs for stupid reasons, and it's really good to be able to realise that those are dumb reasons to have a fight with someone you're in love with, and that you can come back from that and just kind of the next day you'll wake up and you'll just try and chat to each other like nothing happened and like everything's normal. And that's a good thing, because it keeps the relationship going when this tiny pointless thing could split you apart and result in massive changes of lifestyle and maybe even a certain trauma that, here's the point, makes you think of other people like your ex. This is where I think these feminist young adult writers came from that appealed to the feminist bedroom vloggers around 2009. I reckon these are the type of people writing these books who haven't managed to be civil in their breakups, and they have turned this into, I hate this ex, I hate this ex, I hate this ex, therefore all men are bad. And they sit down and write one day because they're sad about the whole thing and they're bitter, and they think, are all men like this? Which they're not, it's just your experience as a man, and there are better men if you look in the right places. Hi. And I'd probably sit down in this sadness and kind of think all men are like this. I'm going to write a theory of the world. Like, why does this happen? I'm going to write an idea. Should I write an idea? Oh, this is a nice idea. Oh, this actually confirms how I'm thinking of the world right now. Just like the lyrics of that song I heard the other day confirm how I'm thinking of the world. That was an annoying time when people just took song lyrics all the time and posted them to their DeviantArt or live journals to confirm their life. Like, wow, this is so true. When in actual fact, no, it can apply to a million things. You're just taking the words, like the Bible, and interpreting them for your life. I think these people who haven't managed to discipline their minds and control how they treat people and how they break up with people, and not hate the people they break up with and not jump to conclusions about them like, well, it must be all men because everyone I've gone out with is a man and they've all acted this way. Like, never do they think inwardly, like, that might be the choices I've made in the people I've chosen to be with. And they go on to write this little pamphlet of ideas, these novels. Even they can even inject, they do inject it into fiction novels. There are so many. Read some YA books and you'll start to see strains of feminism in them. Like, read these things that the Green brothers used to put up, like Paper Towns and stuff. And just look at the themes in the fiction written by these deeply progressive ideologues, and just see what they're putting out, because you'll recognise some of them if you're an anti-SJW, I'm sure. I'm not against sensitivity and emotion, but people need to handle their emotions better and know how to just... I mean, it's like that whole offended thing. Don't have an emotional reaction to something you see if it concerns you. Like, if someone talks to you and they say something, gauge how mild the thing they're saying could be if they were like your best friend and they were saying it to you. And then don't react harshly to someone saying something to you that sounds like they're attacking you as a person, because they might not be. I can't keep on topic. It's this tangent hopping that actually got me to think I might make a vlog though, so I suppose it's good in a certain way. Shower thoughts on the bus, you know, when you're jumping from tangent to tangent. Wikipedia sprees, where you're jumping from link to link. These are actually things that get you thinking. Yeah. So, and what I'm saying is, next link in the chain is the people who read these YA authors are often bookworms who go, I love books, books, which, you know, there's nothing wrong with books. But I think people have to come to an understanding that when they walk into a library and see all these books on the shelves, it's not like, wow, it's not like this candy store. It's the same as the internet where there's 100 articles listed on Google. These are all people's thoughts, individual people's thoughts. They're not gospel. They're not correct. They're not divine. They're wrong. They're infallible. Every book you see on the shelf at Waterstones is the thoughts of an individual person. You know, that people often take these things as if, like, books, man, books are great. Like, books are the most amazing thing. If you don't read books, then you're obviously not gonna get an education. It's like, no, it's your skepticism, it's your ability to discern what you're reading and how much of it is wrong and how much of it is an individual's thoughts. When you're picking up a book off a shelf to read in Waterstone, you're picking up an individual person and their mind, and that person might have shitty ideas. There's probably a Nazi bookstore. Would you like that? You know, would you be like, Books, man, books. If all the books were about white supremacist ideas, and all the fiction was about like 1930s, 1930s relationships in Germany or something, when people were just buying into the anti-Semitism thing. I really hate talking about World War II and Nazis. I don't know if you can tell, but that was a terrible analogy to make because everyone's talking about Nazis right now, and they shouldn't be, because Nazis have been defeated in 1945, and neo-Nazis aren't anywhere near the same thing. I think like white ethno-states are a terrible idea. I think nationalism is being proud of the country you came from, and I'm not a nationalist at all, mainly because I'm anti-patriotic. Think of that what you will, but I am against patriotism because you can't help where you're born. You're born into the world. You can't choose your spawn location on the map, can you? You just are born into a place, and you don't have a choice about it. And you're born a skin colour as well, and you don't have a choice about it. There's no pre-baby select screen, where before you become a baby individual human, you select what type of human and where, and what language you're going to end up being taught. Like, there's none of that. So why be patriotic? We're all the same. We're all humans. We're just going to be born into different fucking places in the world under different mother tongues, I mean, that's just my personal thoughts on the matter. I don't have a problem with nationalists, believe it or not. I have a problem with white supremacy. I have a problem with people who want to hate on Jews, and I mean it's just like racism, like true racism, like hating someone because they're from a certain country. Again, they didn't choose to be born in that country. Why are you hating them? I think maybe it comes down to cultures and interests more than that, because like, were you born into a certain country because they've got traditions, which in this way I don't like traditionalism at all. They've got traditions, they've got a culture that spans back all these thousands of years, where this particular country has chosen that they're all going to live in this certain way that's different from all the other countries. That's fucked up, because you can't help being born into that country. And why not live like all the other humans in the globe? But nationalism, where you're proud to be of a certain country, isn't by default a bad thing. And I'm fine with a nationalist if they're just like, if it's like, so Nigel Farage is like, he used to be at UKIP, and his kind of nationalism is, I love being English, I love being in England, and I love it because of the things we've got here are more helpful than some things I've seen in other countries. And there's value in what he's saying there. He's not instant racist. He's not instant foreigner hater. He's got a good sense of humour. If you ever seen him on Have I Got News For You, I don't think he's a racist at all. I think that's a daft thing. I mean, I don't think he's a super cool person, but yeah, if I was in a room with him, I'd get along with him and have a laugh. I'm not a nationalist myself because I'm anti-patriotic, but I can completely see why people would be a nationalist, because it's a valid concern to end up growing up in your country where you were born into and liking it, and then you go overseas to somewhere and maybe you're not familiar with their culture, so you can't get into it, and they have a different healthcare system that doesn't work as well, so you get hurt there and you're like, what is all this bureaucracy when you get to the hospital? Like, you wish it could be like going into a hospital in your home country where you just get sorted out quicker and there'd be less stress. Or maybe the country you're going to definitely has fucked up ideas because their traditions are based on individuals and their collective ideology. You see, that can be a collective, is like the traditions of a country that have bad ideas spanning hundreds of years, and they haven't been able to iron out those bad ideas. So you end up with stuff like North Korea, where they have basically a kind of fascism where there's one person at the top of the pyramid ruling everything, and he says what goes, and he's got shit ideas. I lost my train of thought. Let's see if I can find it. So how did I get onto that topic? Books are individuals' thoughts. Books are not beautiful, amazing, 100% good all the time. So you wouldn't go into a Nazi bookstore and go, wow, all the books that you can get are amazing, aren't they? All the different books. But there's diversity of thought, and this is one of the things I love to protect in freedom of speech, is not diversity of skin colour, not diversity of the nation you come from, not diversity of gender, but the diversity of thought, because all humans can't help where they're born into, they can't help the gender they're born as, the sex they're born as. You've got to say that these days because, gender and sex have diverged and they're not really synonyms anymore, are they? I think that when I was younger, gender and sex were synonyms, but now sex is the biological, proper, scientific kind. Gender is a thing that is about identity, and it's been taken by the SJWs and turned into 76 genders. Bullshit. You can't help what you're born as. You can't help where you're born. Individualism is great because each individual should have their rights protected no matter who they are, no matter what group they're from, no matter what their body is, no matter what obstacles they face in life from what they've been born into or as. So I protect diversity of thought. So what's in here that we can't see? That's beautiful. Like every person, as long as they're not like sheep and just following ideas that are really common. Diversity of thought is important. No matter where you're born, you are a human that is worth something, and I value diversity of thought as in all the different things that someone could think, all the different ways that they can think about the world should be preserved and thought of as not necessarily tools that we can use, because that sounds like something you could abuse really easily, but you should see the beauty in an individual. And I know some other anti-SJWs will stamp on me for saying that, because it's like, oh, you're saying everyone's special. Everyone's not special, they're all the same. Like, I don't really buy into that. I think there is individualism, and there is something special about each individual person, even though lots of humans are very similar to each other. It's the magic that some people might have, not an original thought, but a hybrid mixture of thoughts that really works for the world, and that some of these people won't be nurtured, they'll just be suppressed and you'll never get to hear their thoughts, and therefore the world will be a poorer place, because we're trying to make everyone homogenous, we're trying to make them think the same. If we're SJWs, we're trying to make them think the same and be like each other and all think in the same way as a collective, and that sucks, because advancement, which I'm using instead of progress, you realise, because progressives are regressive at the moment. Advancement in the world, like advancement of technology, advancement of human ingenuity, usually comes from specific people who've had a thought or a way of thinking or a way of living and being, where they've chosen how to live and be that way. No one does everything in exactly the same way, and the chosen way that this one person has chosen to be is efficient, and they've happened upon that efficiency by accident, and nobody else around them realises they're efficient. It's just this diversity of thought and individualism that has given birth to this accidental efficiency. It's kind of like evolution, but not really. It's on short time scales. And so you get this little Einstein, you get this, you get one of the great thinkers popping out of the woodwork from time to time, popping out of the sheep clones of life. You get people who've had a different way of thinking, a different idea, a different process of being in life, a different method of doing things that leads to them doing something great, doing something amazing, and inventing something that once propagated to everyone, this thing makes our lives better. Like things that improve hygiene in our households, like the washing machine, like technological improvements in clothes, like the computer, I guess. Even though I lean more and more Amish and Neo-Luddite as time goes by, because computers are and the internet are infuriating quite a lot of time. It has made our lives better. And there are these machines in our houses. There are lights. I've got a light here that has a dimmer and it changes to all the colours, so I can have any individual one colour I like in my room. It's currently set to a kind of creamy yellow colour. Chairs that are better for your back. Frigging desks that don't fucking hurt you to sit at for long periods of time. I could name other things that aren't just like fucking household furniture, but you get what I mean. There are people, like there's scientific advancements and breakthroughs that aren't about studying faraway things that will probably never reach outside the Milky Way. That's a whole other tangent I could go off on. But they're about things for the here and now that will make our lives better. And they come from these inventors. They come from inventors with individualism of thought, diversity of thought, who are not following the sheep. They're not following the crowd. They're not following collectives who want to homogenize ideas. And therefore, you get these little breakthroughs every now and then of people who make our lives better through their invention. But if you suppress that and make everyone think the same thing, like feminism does, or religion does, or being born into a nation that has a very strong tradition from the past that is based on an original shit idea, you don't get diversity of thought so much, because everyone's forced to think in the same way. They're all following these crowds who are preaching and preaching and preaching, be like this, it's good, be like this, it's good. Virtue signalling that we're doing good things here. We're doing good things by thinking this, when actually you need that diversity of thought, and it's being crushed. You need to value the difference in people's brains and not their skin colour. This is what you should be valuing, the difference of how people think, not what they look like and not what their sex is, or gender, whatever. And so then, through the bad breakups and things, going back to our timeline, we've got the one thing. I don't think it's postmodernism. I think the bad breakups and things have led to the YA authors writing their theses and their ideas of how to be, which are then absorbed by the bookworm, bedroom vloggers, like the girl on the panel with Anita Sarkeesian the other day at VidCon, where she called Sargon a garbage human. Not that girl, but the girl on the end who's blonde. She was one of these bookworm vloggers who propagated feminism. When the Green brothers were writing their YA fiction books, and when there were thousands of other... I shouldn't say thousands. It was a lot less than thousands, I'd say hundreds maybe, of YA authors and people writing feminist fact and fiction books that were getting eaten up by people who were these bookworm YouTubers who then talked about the books that they were absorbing, because not all books are good, as we've established. And then these ideas of homogenizing everyone's thought into one thing based on a bad idea, based on not being able to control your emotions during a relationship. This is just how I see it. This is how feminism, third wave feminism, got propagated on the other side from GamerGate. So you know how the GamerGate thing happened, because that's more well known. The journalists came out with all this activism stuff, and I don't quite know the root cause of that side of things, because that must be something corporate, surely, because it's the games journalists who were going problematic, blah blah blah, and they couldn't have been reading this YA fiction. So the cause of third wave feminism is still partly hazy to me, but I can see that this side of it over here came from the YA authors, and then that homogenizes thought through YouTube, and you get third wave feminism as we know it, which reaches its peak in 2016 and is just unbearable, and causes the pushback, which is my side of things. And that's why people like Jeff Holiday and some other people regret using the word community to describe us, because I don't believe that what they say is true when they say community defines us as a collective. I've never thought that, because I've been in communities like the level design community in the 90s where you know everyone's individualist in thought. You know that they're not all thinking the same thing. They just come together because of this one interest thing. And this community's not a bad thing. So yeah, the pushback was the anti-SJWs like me, anti-feminists, I suppose, like MRAs, the skeptic community, the shitlords who post nonsense on Twitter and jokes and then get demonized for jokes. And you get the rise of a much more normal and acceptable right wing. I'm I'm quite amazed actually. Everyone used to really hate on the right wing, but now they're aware that there is centre right, Trump voter, Republican, and you can trust these people. They're nice people. They just want uh, traditionalism, nationalism, and you can see from what I said earlier in this vlog, there's not too much of a problem with chatting to these people because you can understand the things they want are entirely valid. You know, they're not white supremacist Nazis. There are neo-Nazis out there, but they're incredibly rare. So rare compared to the far left craziness that's going on with Antifa and new Marxist socialism that's trying to take over. Anyway, I just had to get that out. That was a huge ramble, and I'm gonna hate editing it. And there's gonna be jump cuts. There's gonna be jump cuts, guys. I have to edit things because this is it's very rare that I talk in a stream of consciousness and get everything right and cut out all my ums and ahs and kindas and alrights and but and the bits where I just sit there looking at the camera trying to remember what I was what the previous link in the conversation was for like 2 minutes and then I resume talking. You have to have jump cuts. Sorry. There are some people I really admire the people actually that can talk stream of consciousness unscripted into the camera and not make any mistakes and make it seem natural. God, I really envy you guys. Does Dr. Randomacan have edits? I can't remember. I feel like he can reel off. Maybe his stuff's scripted. I don't know. Some people you can tell that they're reading a scripted a one page for their vlog, and some people you can tell they're being naturalistic. And then some people read scripts in a way that seems like they're naturalistic. I admire all these people anyway. I can't do this. I've watched so many vloggers. Vloggers shouldn't be an evil term. It's just video log. You know, it's just talking to a camera. That's what vlogging is. But there are some people who, you know, that's not their problem with their vlogs. It's the ideas that they're putting out. Look at the little red play bar on the bottom of the screen. Yeah, I think we've reached the end of the video. Sorry, that's the only way you can tell my ramble's coming to an end. Anyway, I hope you've got something from this. I just had to get these thoughts out. See y'all later. I'll probably have some film reviews, lots of Battlefield 1 gaming videos, and maybe another current year coming in a bit. No travelogue videos though, it's fucking raining. What is summer 2017 in UK? What is it?